What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Extra Point College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Carnes, joined as always by my co-host, Daniel Hammock. Daniel, we got a little bit of a little crossover. The draft was the one crossover between the NFL and college football, and we've watched all these players' careers in college, and now here come the draft experts to tell us you've never heard of this wide receiver, Ladd McConkey. And I'm like, oh, you mean the leading receiver from the two-time national champion Georgia Bulldogs? No. We've all heard of him.
Yeah.
So we're going to tell you which players are actually really good and do a little mock draft ourselves.
Yeah, this will be great. We'll be acting as the general managers, which of course is why we're dressed up. Why not? We're going to be acting as the general managers for each of these teams. We're just going to alternate going back and forth. We're going to pick a first round, and everybody is going to agree, I'm sure, with our selections. We're going to try to do our best of matching best player available with needs as we see fit. But Jacob, we're the experts here, man. We've watched these guys, almost all of their games. We've watched them since they were recruits in high school, as they were getting recruited, seen their huddle film, all this kind of stuff. So these guys are not new to us. We might have certain guys valued ahead of the experts, so to speak. We might have some guys, less valuable. So it'll be interesting to see how we go about this. Jacob, I think we just decided you're just going to be the first overall pick because I wanted to be the evens so that I could end up with the Falcons pick respectfully. We both just agreed to that. So I think that's what we did last year as well. So
that's right.
Without further ado, I imagine we can go ahead and jump right in.
Knocking out, think the room. First pick, Bears need a quarterback. Caleb Williams, best QB in the draft.
What?
Extremely high ceiling. I'm not going to sit here and explain this. Caleb Williams, next pick.
Dude. Good stuff.
The next one is more interesting.
Yeah, this is where it does get interesting. Washington, they could go multiple ways. I think quarterback is definitely what needs to happen. For a long time, they've been tied to Drake May, and then there's been some recent Jayden Daniels interest. I am higher on Jayden Daniels than I am Drake May.
Yep.
I'm going to take Jayden Daniels, number 2 overall, to the Washington Commanders.
Patriots need a quarterback. Next one I would get is Drake May. So I think it's pretty locked in. Those are your top 3 picks in some order. Well, Caleb and then Jayden or Drake in some order. But this is the order I would definitely have. I would also have Jayden ahead of Drake. Because again, with quarterback, with college players, I feel like you're drafting on who has the highest ceiling. And I do think Jayden Daniels has more tools in the bag, therefore a higher ceiling. So, Drake May at 3 to the Patriots. Good fit.
Yeah, now you get to a place that really could use a lot of different positions, but based on what they've recently offloaded at the wide receiver position, Hollywood Brown is gone. Of course, I'm talking about Arizona Cardinals. Hollywood Brown, free agent, he's gone. They just traded away Rondale Moore. A few years ago, Larry Fitzgerald retires. They need their next Larry Fitzgerald. They need their next guy. They also traded away DeAndre Hopkins a couple years ago. So they need their next guy to just build around and for Kyler Murray to be comfortable with. This is a slam dunk, maybe the best player in this draft, regardless of position. I'm going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm not going to overthink this one. I think he's exactly what they had in someone like Larry Fitzgerald for so many years where, it's you draft him, you forget about it. He's an all, pro player for years and years and years. He's going to go to Pro Bowls. He's going to, put your team in a chance to win every game because you've got a home run threat. You've got a guy who can get you, converting third downs. So give me the best receiver in this draft, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, he is to me the alpha. Now we're to the Chargers. I think it's likely there's a trade here, but we're not going to go through all that. Man, I'm going to go a little bit of a joke, a little bit best player available mix here. Jim Harbaugh loves him some offensive line. So give me Joe Alt to the Chargers at 5. He has outwardly talked about. Now, here's the thing, though. They can trade back even a pick or two and still get Joe Alt. So this is where I think a trade's likely. But since we're not doing it, Joe Alt, tackle, Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I think that's exactly what they're going for. They just signed, they're already beefing up their team. They're definitely going to be a team that cherishes the run. And I think that's probably going to be, to their benefit in the long run. But Joe Alt, that's a home run. One of the best offensive tackles to come out in the past few years, and really a no-brainer. So I think that's great.
They need a back. You can get a back in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, you can get a back or 2 or 3 if you want.
And I know that most people, I agree. This draft doesn't have like elite running backs like some others have, like Bijan last year and some other drafts where you have at least one guy that you feel great about. But this has a lot of those middle guys that can all play. So you could even grab 2 of them in the later rounds if you wanted to. And there's more to be had. So there's so many guys that are available that I think are going to be on NFL rosters. So yeah, that's a great point. Great point there.
I don't know, Blake Corum?
Yeah. Oh, dude. I am interested to see what happens next because, which I'm in charge of what happens next. The New York Giants are on the clock at 6. This is where things can turn. Okay, there's still some good offensive linemen out there. There's what most people assume is the next best quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. There's some other elite talent out wide. The Giants are coming off of a year in which everything fell apart. Daniel Jones has not been healthy. They paid him all that money. They need to get some protection for him. If Joe Alt is here at this position, I could see them taking Joe Alt, truthfully, even though they've spent top 10 picks on offensive tackles already in the past 5 years. I could see them doing something like that. I think their biggest gain is probably on the interior of the offensive line in the second round, maybe taking the best, one of the best interior linemen at that stage. At this position, there's so much value in them trading back, getting more picks, or they are devoid of talent on the perimeter. I would consider J.J. McCarthy here, and I would consider Malik Nabers. Those are my 2 where I come down to. It's so hard to say no to the quarterback. So if I'm them, Daniel Jones has only had 1 healthy season where he's played all 16 games in the past 4. So I would take J.J. McCarthy. Final answer. I almost talked myself into Malik Nabers. You just got to do it. So I think neither one of those is a bad pick because Malik Nabers, I do think, is going to be one of the best receivers in the league as soon as he steps foot in the league. But if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. So go ahead and get him. And if Daniel Jones is able to play, you can sit JJ for a little bit and then let him grow and be your eventual starter. If not, then JJ can go ahead and play if Daniel Jones gets hurt again like he has so far. And JJ's a little more mobile. Not than Daniel Jones. They're about equally mobile, but he can do some things to avoid the injury, I think.
Yeah, JJ, I'm not super high on, but I've also settled with the fact that you've got to overdraft. If you're going to overdraft a position, it's quarterback.
Yeah.
And he's the next best guy. Like you said, with their situation, I'm not a big Daniel Jones believer. So, yeah, go take a shot at J.J. McCarthy, get him on a rookie QB deal, and pay him nothing and develop him. And heck, Daniel Jones goes down, likely. You have your next guy ready. So,
and it's a deep receiver draft. Likely there's going to be some really good receivers at the top of round 2 that would normally in years be first round picks.
Yep.
So definitely can go grab a guy there to bolster the passing attack on the perimeter.
Okay. Titans need a wide receiver. You already mentioned it. I think the next tier after, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is on a tier on his own. Tier 2, I've got a few, 2 or 3 receivers on tier 2, but Malik Neighbors, kind of like a 2A there. I think Rome Odunze, I'd have him close. Like they're both very good receivers. Neighbors just has a little more top end speed, and I mean, he's great hands. I mean, he's just all around a phenomenal receiver. Malik Neighbors, a 7.
All right. Well, here's the moment I've been waiting for. All right. This is the Falcons pick. Grown up a Falcons fan. I know this franchise well. I think that there's a few different things to look at, but the past 3 years, they've drafted an offensive player, an offensive skill position player, each of the past 3 years in the first round. The past 2 years at pick number 8. So they've had Kyle Pitts pick number 4 overall in 2021, Drake London pick number 8 overall, and then Bijan Robinson pick number 8 overall. The fans would riot if they took another player like that, offensive skill position player. I believe the fans would riot. That being said, I do think it's a little high right now to draft Dallas Turner or Laiatu Latu, the edge from UCLA. I think that's who the Falcons are targeting. I think they're going to trade back potentially with a team that's coming up to get a quarterback if there's going to be one available.
Vikings
certainly could. They've got the 11 and the 23, so they could do that. Anyways, I think the Falcons take an edge player if they trade back. I also think Terrion Arnold is in the running for one of their guys if they trade back. So the 3 edges, Dallas Turner, Laiatu Latu out of UCLA, and Jared Verse out of Florida State, or Terrion Arnold. I think those are the most likely picks. That being said, we are staying where we're put. I'm drafting Rome Odunze. All right. He's the best player left in the draft at this moment. He is a pass catcher. He's a freak of nature at wide receiver, similar body type, Julio Jones. Falcons fans would love that after they get over the shock of drafting another player in the top 10, but they would get over it pretty quick when they have Drake London and Rome Odunze and Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts with Kirk Cousins delivering the ball to them. So Rome Odunze is my pick for the Falcons at 8.
I think the Bears would be pissed if this happens.
Oh, yeah. I wanted Malik Neighbors for the Falcons. I was hoping that you were going to talk yourself into Rome Odunze, but hey, no, they're both phenomenal players.
So at this point, I mean, Bears need quarterback, which we've drafted, wide receiver and defensive line. It's almost like at this point, I mean, again, we're not doing trades, but deep wide receiver class, trade back a couple picks at this point, gets even more draft picks. But we're not doing that. So I'm reaching a little bit, but gosh, I'm going back and forth here. Between a receiver and, you know what, A.D. Mitchell. A.D. Mitchell. That's that's like the end of my tier 2 for receivers, beginning of tier 3-ish. Yeah, give me A.D. Mitchell to the Bears. I think he's the next guy. He's an alpha. He wants the ball. He's got really, really good size, really, really good hands, crisp routes, great separation, just an all-around amazing receiver. A.D. Mitchell to the Bears. Get Caleb Williams a great target out there. And they've already gotten some more receivers this offseason. This would kind of round out that group and be something special.
Well, now the Jets are up, and they really should address the offensive line. They really should. At this spot, I don't think that they could get a guy that would be as impactful as they need in year 1. And I'm just going to take Brock Bowers.
Yep.
I think that he adds a dimension to their offense that if Aaron Rodgers is back and he's healthy, which are 2 big ifs, I mean, Aaron Rodgers has done some damage with having a tight end in the past. So having a guy like Brock Bowers to go along with Garrett Wilson and just all the other weapons in that offense, I certainly think that the Jets would be wise to grab the best offensive playmaker left in this draft at this point, and that is Brock Bowers.
All right, 11, you have the Vikings. Here's the thing, Daniel. There's a lot of teams picking the top 15 that need a quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
And again, quarterback's the one position teams are going to reach for. And given that we're not just doing best player available, because then we could just rank top 32 best players. We're not doing that. We're doing an actual draft. If I'm the Vikings, I am going to take a chance on a quarterback here. Because rookie deal, you don't know when you're going to pick in the top 11 again. Hopefully not soon. Bo Nix.
Ooh.
Over Penix. Simply because of health. I think they're extremely comparable players. Bo Nix showed when he actually has an offense that he can develop in and coaches he can develop under that he's a Heisman caliber quarterback at the college level. This guy was a 5-star coming out of high school for a reason. I feel like we finally got to see glimpses of Bo Nix hitting his ceiling at Oregon. And yeah, he's the next quarterback I would take off the board. So Vikings go grab Bo Nix.
All right, well, we've gotten down to the Broncos, who just paid a lot of money to have Russell Wilson not be their quarterback. I think they do need a quarterback. And there are some really good players right now that are on.
I know.
They really should draft one of these other players.
We're going to have a lot of quarterbacks taken way too high.
Yeah, I mean, let's do it. It's got to be Michael Penix at this point. Michael Penix is the last first-round worthy quarterback. I say that with, definitely an asterisk. I think there's a clear drop-off after J.J. McCarthy, which obviously there's a clear drop-off after Drake May before that. At least we think so. Clear to us who've watched college football. But I think if Bo Nix is off the board, I think that Penix is soon to follow, because if there's a run on quarterbacks, you don't want to be the one playing musical chairs being left without one. So Give me Michael Penix, because they definitely need a guy on a rookie deal, since they're paying $37 million a year to Russell Wilson, for him not to be the quarterback. I think Sean Payton, I think Michael Penix is similar to Drew Brees, like game style, as far as quick release, delivering the ball with accuracy, quick shuffle in the pocket, very similar attributes. So he's a good processor. I think those are things that Drew Brees was really good at. That's what made Sean Payton so good. I could see him succeeding with Michael Penix.
So, Daniel, I want you to realize something. We've made it to pick. This is 13. No defensive players taken.
This is a fantasy draft? What's going on?
I'm trying to remember what year this was. A lot of mock drafts have the Falcons projected to take a defensive player at 8.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if that happened, it would be the first time in 15 years a defensive player didn't get taken top 7 or something. It's something crazy. Like I feel like it was longer than that. We've made it even longer. But I'm gonna go ahead and break it up here at the Raiders. They need defensive line, especially on the interior. Byron Murphy, I think, is best available. He was a monster for Texas. He's huge. Good fit there with the Raiders. Byron Murphy.
All right. Well,
you got to take this one seriously. You can't just have him draft like a kicker in the first round.
Yeah, I'd considered it. So I am drafting for the Saints, even though I do truly hate the Saints. I'm going to do something that I think the Saints could do and might do, because they love themselves some LSU Tigers. With the run on receivers we've already seen, there's a great receiver sitting there that they just gotten rid of, Michael Thomas, who was basically a tight end trying to play slot receiver for a lot of years. I I have a lot of disrespect for him in my heart. That being said, I think a home run. Yeah, hate from Kennesaw. That being said, Brian Thomas Jr., Jacob, I've been on him since he was a high school player, getting recruited. I told you about him at LSU, saying a long time that he was going to be good. It took him a while to develop, and then these past 2 years, he's been great. I think he's definitely worthy of a first-round selection. 6'3", maybe even 6'4", like 200, big body, wide receiver. So definitely something that they could use. Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU going to the Saints, or as I like to call them, the Aints.
Boom. All right, Colts. I'm also taking a receiver. More run on receiver here. Give me Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman was phenomenal this year. Elite speed, elite hands, elite separation, all the things. There's one more receiver I think is kind of at this tier. But give me Keon Coleman to the Colts.
All right. So I've got Seattle. Seattle could really use some offensive line help. So I'm going to go with Talais Fuaga, offensive tackle from Oregon State. I think he's a guy you could kick inside. You can also have him be really at either tackle position, but early on in his career, I think he'd be great as a guard, and then eventually could kick out. So Talais Fuaga, Oregon State offensive lineman.
All right, I got the Jags. They need interior offensive line as well, but also edge and defensive back. And at this point, you're getting a steal. I do think best edge in the draft is Dallas Turner. So give me Dallas Turner, Alabama to the Jags. All right, Bengals at 18.
Yep, and I was counting on Byron Murphy still being available. They definitely want a defensive tackle. At this point, you're looking at a couple of different things. There's a couple of good offensive tackles still available. There's definitely some great defensive players available, some edge rushers. I see Terrion Arnold still there, which amazes me most of the time. In most of these mock drafts, we've had them going top 10 or early teens, but again, it's quarterback heavy, and we didn't allow trades in our draft. So, some of these things, these players are falling a little bit. Some of these guys are going to continue to fall. I'm going to take Amarius Mims out of Georgia.
Yep.
To the Bengals, because I think he's got the greatest upside at offensive tackle that's left. I think he could play right tackle or left tackle in the NFL. And you've already got Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase in place. You're probably going to draft a running back here, in the later rounds. The fact that you have a couple offensive tackles sitting here that could be difference makers for years to come, you definitely got to grab one of them.
Love it. All right, I got the Rams. They could use offensive tackle, but I lean more towards defensive line. You just lost Aaron Donald to retirement. Let's go ahead and at least, you're not going to draft the next Aaron Donald, but you need to fill a gap there on the interior defensive line. So give me Drazon Newton from Illinois. Good spot to grab him here. I think it's a value pick as well. So go ahead and address that need, and he's a great player out of Illinois.
Yeah, I think the Steelers were hoping that Amarius Mims dropped to them, and then they would have two Georgia offensive tackles and a Georgia tight end all on the same offense. They are also looking to add offensive tackle in this spot, but at this point, this is the biggest home run of any, I think. Terrion Arnold, cornerback, Alabama, is such a Pittsburgh Steeler guy. I mean, he's going to go there and be an all-pro at corner. If he lasts this long, I mean, that's truly remarkable. But
oh yeah,
let's So I'm just going to not think about this. They could use a corner, and so Terrion's definitely the right guy for the job. So cornerback Terrion Arnold to Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, the Dolphins need some offensive line help. I'm going to go Penn State, Aluma What's funny is that's the harder name to say that I got out. And Fashanu out of Penn State. I'm terribly sorry if I mispronounced that name, but Penn State offensive tackle. I feel like I
I've
nailed
been
the first
avoiding
name,
him because
though.
I didn't want to say his name, so I'm
there
just
you
kidding.
go. But yeah, I think he's next guy off the board on offensive tackle. Phenomenal for Penn State this year. Good size, NFL ready to the Dolphins.
Yeah, now I got the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that they could use several positions. I think they'd be very tempted to take an edge if Jared Verse and Latu are both available at this spot.
There's one pick here.
I mean, I would go cornerback.
Okay,
Quinyon Mitchell.
I had more of a funny answer.
Oh, a dog, of course.
Oh yeah. It just a Georgia player.
Yeah. No,
sorry. Which corner did you take?
Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo.
Good pick. Okay, Vikings. We addressed quarterback, which I guess you could have waited the draft technically. Maybe not though, with all the teams that need it. Need tight end. Not drafted one outside of Bowers in the first round. Need offensive line help, which you could, but I think might still be reaching at this point. So I get to defensive line and defensive back, which you just took next best one off the board. Let me go ahead and go. Oh, I'm debating here between two. Let me go ahead and go Kool-Aid McKinstry, Alabama. Alabama had 2 elite corners this past year, and Kool-Aid's the next guy off the board.
Man, all right, we're at the Dallas Cowboys, and I think there's a couple of things you could do here. They definitely, I could see them taking a quarterback if certain guys have dropped to this spot. I don't think that certain guys are going to necessarily drop, just because they have not extended Dak Prescott. He's counting $59 million against the cap this year. We'll see what they do in the offseason, if they're going to, double down or what their plan is. But in the meantime, they did let Tyron Jones walk at offensive tackle. So at this point, I would probably take J.C. Latham, offensive tackle, Alabama.
Made my next pick easy. Packers also need offensive line. They need a tackle. Give me Troy Fautino from Washington. He played left tackle there this year. Again, huge size. Jim Moore award-winning offensive line. Yeah, good fit with the Packers.
Yeah, we just made the Bucs' life so much easier because their biggest need coming into this draft is edge, and I think you've got 3 guys, specifically 2 that I think are home runs, but 3 guys that are worthy of this pick in Latu out of UCLA, Jared Verse out of Florida State, Chop Robinson out of Penn State. I think just because it's just geographically always makes the most sense for Tampa Bay to draft Florida State players. Let's keep the tradition going. Jared Verse to Tampa Bay.
Well, at this point, I think you made the Cardinals' life easy, because then they're going to go ahead and take Latu from UCLA
Absolutely.
at edge. And again, value pick here. I mean, you're just like, thank God he fell. I don't think he's going to fall this far. But given the way we drafted quarterbacks and wide receivers, there will be trades. But yeah, I think he's that next pick. To the Cardinals. I don't know if I said that.
Yeah, to the Cardinals.
Latu. Yep.
Well, this is their second pick. So they got an offensive stud early on. Yep. Now they get a defensive stud. They would be very happy with this pick. All right, so the Bills, who have just offloaded everything around Josh Allen recently, they have a few different needs. You could go Chop Robinson here, edge, Penn State. I feel strongly that they could do that, and that would be good. But I also, since they pick at the end of the round, I get nervous about them having another difference maker receiver the next time they pick. I think there's going to be guys that can be part of a room, but as far as a guy that can be one of your top dudes, I'm down to 2 receivers that can make that kind of first round impact that they would look for. In this case, I think that they go Ladd McConkey here. out of Georgia, Buffalo Bills. The other receiver I was considering is Xavier Worthy. But I'll go ahead and take Ladd McConkey here at the end of the first round to the Bills.
Boom. All right, now the Lions. You just went to the NFC Championship game. How about let's bolster up that offensive line? Give me Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon. I feel like it's a good fit there. They're going to look great in the new uniforms, classic uniforms now. Thank God. Good fit there out of Oregon. I'd go Zach Frazier. The injury scares me, so he's going to drop a little bit because of that, but Jackson Powers Johnson.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think there's a few guys that I'm on Baltimore now here at pick 30. They could use an edge. They could use a wide receiver. I think if there's certain receivers on the board right here, I think they run to the podium. I think specifically two receivers in Ladd McConkey and A.D. Mitchell would both fit really well, and both of those guys played under Coach Todd Monken, who's the offensive coordinator there. I think that both of those guys would be potential selections at this point in the draft. If either one of them is available, I think that's who Baltimore goes with. In this case, the way things have fallen, I think that they would opt to go with an edge. And so I'm going to take Chop Robinson, edge from Penn State.
Boom. Okay. My last pick to the 49ers. They need offensive line. They need corner. I'll go next best corner available. Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. And I think he's the last first round caliber corner, kind of. But yeah, Nate Wiggins out of Clemson.
All right. Now defending champs, back-to-back champs, Kansas City Chiefs. The rich get richer, and they can keep stockpiling these guys at the end of the first round, but I think that they go with a guy worthy of the pick, and they're going to take Xavier Worthy, who had the fastest 40 time at the NFL draft, or excuse me, at the NFL Combine. But Xavier Worthy out of Texas, I think is a solid day 2 pick, but in this case, and I say day 2, early day 2, but if these other receivers have been taken earlier on in the draft, I certainly think that he's the last one worthy of a first round pick at that position. We really went receiver heavy, but I think they could draft several of these guys if any of them, Brian Thomas Jr., Keon Coleman, any of those guys drop to this area, A.D. Mitchell, Ladd McConkey, any of those guys, I could certainly see getting picked right here at the end of the first round. But how many receivers did we take? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wide receivers in the first round?
That's crazy.
Wow.
Well, 5
but
quarterbacks?
It's absolutely possible. We took 6 quarterbacks in the first round. So 6 QBs went in the first round. Yep. Man, it's probably, let's count the defensive players. 1, 2, 3, 4,
first one wasn't
5,
13.
6, 7, 8, 9. 9 out of the whole first round. So
crazy.
Definitely an offensive heavy, top heavy draft. There's a lot of good defensive players, but those offensive players are at a premium this year. So awesome. Well,
love it. Be sure to follow us.
I think we did good. I would be happy if I was any of these fan bases, truthfully. So
Oh, I would be too. I mean, the Chiefs just snagging it. That's my favorite pick, is they're going to snag some phenomenal receiver because there's so many of them there at the end of the first round, and it's just God, really?
Enter the gif of what's his name from Breaking Bad. They can't keep getting away with this.
That's right.
That's what they're going to do.
They're going to keep doing it. Love it. Be sure to follow us on social media at the Extra Point Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can follow Daniel on Twitter /X at Deep South Daniel. You can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Carnes with a K. That'll do it for this edition of the Extra Point. He is Daniel. I am Jacob. See ya.